Good morning. I'm Harold Harkin with WXMS News Channel 1's Christmas News Top Story. As expected, Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea during the reign of King Herod. About that time, some wise men from eastern lands arrived in Jerusalem asking, where is the newborn king of the Jews? We have seen his star as it rose and have come to worship him. King Herod was deeply disturbed when he heard this, as were everyone in Jerusalem. He called a meeting of the leading priests and teachers of the religious law and asked, where is the Messiah supposed to be born? In Bethlehem, in Judea, they said, for this is what the prophet wrote. And you, O Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are not least among the ruling cities of Judah. For a ruler will come from you who will shepherd my people Israel. Then Herod called for a private meeting of the wise men, and he learned from them the time when the star had first appeared. When he told them, go to Bethlehem and search carefully for the child, and when you find him, come back and tell me so I can worship him too. After this interview, the wise men went on their way, and the star they had seen in the east guided them to Bethlehem. It went ahead of them and stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were filled with joy. They entered the house and saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. Then they opened their treasure chests and gave him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. When it was time to leave, they returned to their own country by another route, for God had warned them in a dream not to return to Herod. That is our top story. We will be right back with your WXMS Yuletide weather.
Oh, stop. By the way, your Yuletide weather is going to be warm and rainy, and then cold, and then warm, and then cold, and then warm, and then cold, if you haven't noticed.
I don't know if you watch the news much, but I'm guessing that was a little bit different of a news story for you. The news is filled with all of these different things, and we kind of come to expect a certain thing from our news. A lot of times I think, at least for me, I expect usually not good news, right? You kind of expect that they're just going to talk about the bad things, the scandals, the politics, disasters, wrecks. I mean, it just doesn't always, leave you feeling uplifted, usually, by watching the news. But the news of Christmas isn't supposed to be that. The news of Christmas isn't always filled with everything that is good and positive. But the news of Christmas should leave us with an amazing hope. And that's why we're doing a whole series this December called Christmas News. WXMS Channel 1. Because we believe that there is a story to be told, and God has a story that He wants to tell us. But He also has a story that He wants us to tell. So, as I'm talking about that, I have a story to share with you. Recently, just a month or so back, my wife Yvonne and I went on a little couple-day retreat, and I was looking for a different place to go. I didn't want to go to the same places that we always tend to go, and so I looked online and I kind of searched for, what are the top places in Ohio that you're supposed to visit. And I found a listing of like these 25 top Ohio places. I didn't know there were 25. But you would figure the normal ones are the big cities, Cleveland, Columbus, Akron, all of that. You kind of go down, Mansfield's there on the list. And then just a couple down below Mansfield is this place called Yellow Springs, Ohio. Never heard of it before. But I was reading about it, had a nice little picture there of this like wooded area with this little waterfall kind of falling down over yellow rocks, and I read it, goes, because there's limestone there, and then it said it has all these little quaint shops in Yellowstone, and you should just go. So I was like, hey, that's different, it's over by Dayton, we haven't been over in that area before, so, I plan, I say, let's go there, it'll be kind of fun, got a little shopping, got a little outdoorsy, depending on what the weather's like and everything, so we head to Yellow Springs for a couple days. And we go down into the town of Yellow Springs, and it is kind of a little, kind of forgotten little downtown. Didn't realize it was a college town. And the little shops in Yellow Springs weren't really kind of our little kitschy kind of shops. They were more like art and incense kind of things. Go there if you will. But then, eventually we had a day that the weather was kind of cooperating enough, and I said, I want to find these Yellow Springs. I want to, there's these, nature preserves around here, and I want to go find these Yellow Springs. I got my camera. I want to take some pictures. They're just beautiful pictures online of this Yellow Spring. And so we park, and we're trying to find where the trail starts. You can't find any kind of markings about where the trail starts. There wasn't any kind of directions. There were very few maps that actually marked the Yellow Springs, though I did find one. And we went to this kind of hawk-owl habitat or something like that, where they had a bunch of these birds and everything like that, and nobody was there. But we parked and looked at all these refuge birds and everything, and then we finally got done with that, and all the signs said, you cannot park here if you're hiking. So we're like, well then where do we park? Because everywhere you saw signs, you can't park here. Finally, one of the workers from the habitat showed back up, and we asked her, she goes, you know what, it's really slow today, don't worry about it, just park here. And I said, well, do you know where the Yellow Springs are? She said, yeah, you just go down that little, dirt road, and you kind of stay to the right, and just kind of go over the bridge, and you kind of keep to the right, and it's just down that way a ways. Easy enough, right? So we head out, and I'm really excited, because I'm like, man, this is going to be really cool, outdoors, and we kind of go to the right, we go to the bridge, and I didn't realize this, but we got to the bridge, and the bridge was like over this little, kind of fall of the stream and everything like that. It was kind of cool, took some pictures of that, and I'm sitting there thinking, well, she said to go straight, but you get over the bridge, and there's like 3, 4 different break-offs. What's straight? Nothing's straight on a trail. So I'm sitting there thinking, okay, waterfalls go up and down river, right? You come up and down, there's no way to go up, so we went down river a little ways, and we bumped into a few other people, and there were no other falls or anything down there, or springs, and so we stopped and asked me, do you know where the Yellow Springs are? The what? Okay. The town is called Yellow Springs. Where? Yeah, they're up over, I don't know. Okay. Maybe they weren't from town, so we go back up the other way, we try one of the other paths, we bump into somebody else. Do you know where the Yellow Springs are? Well, yeah, I think you just keep going straight. So we walk a little ways, not very far, walk a little ways, and all of a sudden kind of, come up over this little rise, and just off to the right, I look at my wife and I said, I think that's it. It was about that high. There was really no river or stream. It was kind of like an underground thing, just kind of trickled over. It was maybe about that wide, about that high. And the stones were kind of yellow and orange because it was like limestone. It was pouring over. And I'm looking at it, and I'm sitting here thinking in my mind, the picture just wasn't what I expected. It was okay, but my expectations were this, especially after we passed this one falls and everything. The town was named after this. Somebody looked at this and said, yes, let's call the town Yellow Springs. Not little trickle out of the ground. Little trickle out of the ground, Ohio. It's kind of got a ring to it. But I think life is filled with things like that. We kind of set ourselves up, we have these expectations that we put on things, and we get really discouraged when they're not met. When I talk to couples that are getting ready to get married, or maybe talking to couples that are having their first child, one of the things that I'll try to counsel them with is don't expect what you're expecting. Because they all, all those little couples that are getting married, they're all Twitter-rated in love, and you sit there and say, it's not always going to be like this. You're going to look at him one day and you're going to say, why am I here? Ladies, you're laughing too much. But the reality is that, you have those moments, the little Twitter patient where wears off, and the expectation that you're never going to fight, you're never going to have any problems, and all that kind of comes crashing down. And I usually tell them, I say, you can't have that expectation. It's not realistic. You know, some couples don't fight in your traditional way. Some of them are those silent type. You know, the people that fight silently? Boy. You know, get it out. Don't bottle it up. But the reality is we all have those kind of things. Whether it's maybe a class we're taking in school that we think, oh, this is going to be easy. It's not going to be a problem. I got this. I'm good at this subject. But yet the teacher doesn't teach in a way that connects with us. And, you know, we just have these expectations that we're just always being let down. You expect that, you know, you have a friend that is going to call you when they say they're going to call you, right? But they don't. So we're let down. You know, things aren't always going to be good. Socks and underwear are not always going to be picked up from the floor. Dinner's not always going to be on the table at 5 o'clock. Your kids are not always going to listen to you. Or ever. Maybe that's an expectation. You know, some people get to the point sometimes that they get to, you maybe have been there yourself. Well, I have just decided not to have any expectations, and then I'll never be surprised or disappointed or whatever it is. But guess what that is? It's an expectation. It's an expectation. And so it doesn't really work out because we put all of this. But here is the trick. What if? I'm sure it's happened to you before. But what if your expectations, instead of being falling short, reality falling short of what you expect, what if what you expect is exceeded? What if it's, you know, what happens is over and above anything you could think or imagine? What if what expectations you have are really small in compared to what actually really happens? Couldn't you be excited? Wouldn't you have a story to tell? I mean, when you have this, it gives us an energy. It's good news, it's great news, and you want to tell people about it. And that's the picture I think we have even in this story here that Harold Harkin told us on WXMS News about the 3 wise men. Because Jesus didn't come to meet our expectations. He came to exceed them. Jesus didn't come. He wasn't born on earth. God didn't send his son here to meet our expectations. If he did, that would be disappointing. Jesus came to exceed them. And that's why we have such a great story to tell. But before we get further into this, you know, we are looking at the story of the wise men. And when we look at the story of the wise men, I want you to understand something. Fake news isn't a new thing. You hear a lot of things about fake news. It's existed a long time. We may have a resurgence, but there's a lot of fake news around Jesus' birth. And the wise men are probably one of the biggest culprits of it. Here's part of that whole picture is there are no evidence that there were kings. You've sung the song, right? We 3 kings of Orient. We don't know that they were kings. In fact, it was probably likely they weren't kings. It says they were wise men. They were scholars. They studied the stars. They were astrologers of their day. They tried to understand the world they lived in by seeing the movement of the universe in the stars in the sky. That's who these people were. And there were 3 of them, right? They have names. You maybe know them. Anybody know the names of the 3 wise men? Not Radshak and Those were Daniel's friends. Different story. Here's the thing is, nobody knows. But there was a tradition passed down that people have put names to them to try to elaborate on a story, and one person hears it and then they share it, and they share the other thing. Well, here's the other thing that we know. We don't know that there were 3. We know there was more than 1, so it could have been 2 guys. It could have been 10 guys. It could have been any number. It just is a group. It actually, in fact, you know, if you look at it this way, there was a caravan that traveled to Jerusalem. Okay? I mean, could you imagine your nativity scene if it really represented this correctly? I mean, you would have to have probably 100 people and camels coming into town, because it said, you know, the story says that when they came into Jerusalem, this big busy city, it disturbed everybody because it was such a large crowd. It was this sense of people noticed. It wasn't three guys just kind of strolling in on camels like we see depicted. This was a big deal. This was a big endeavor. These guys went all out. These wise men just went all out to pack everything up, to go on this journey. They didn't know how long the journey was going to be when they set out. And then they come to Jerusalem, following the star. And this is my biggest pet peeve. My kids will tell you. My wife loves nativity scenes, and so we have nativity scenes all over the house. But if we have a nativity scene where all the figures are like separate, you know, I've told my kids the wise men have to be across the room. They weren't there. They weren't there when Jesus was born. In fact, in this story, it says that Jesus was a child, not a newborn. Very specifically. He was older. Now, we don't know exactly how old. We presume that he was somewhere under the age of 2 because of what Herod does next. The story tells us that Herod actually when the wise men didn't come back, he went out and killed all the male children under the age of 2. So in some way, he had enough evidence to believe that the child was born at a time in which that he would have been approximately 2 years old. But why do we have these nativity scenes with wise men and shepherds and all of them surrounding Jesus with camels and donkeys and cows and all? Well, it's just tradition that has been passed down. It's fake news. I don't know that I would say that it necessarily hurts our understanding of the story, because really the story is about these wise men were expecting something. They were looking for something. They were in search of something that they saw and that they knew and they understood. They followed a star because they studied the stars and they noticed something up in the sky that was different and off from what they had normally anticipated and expected. So it kind of set them on this journey to find out what this was. And in fact, you know, there's a lot of theories that maybe the star they followed was Jupiter, because Jupiter was the kingship planet. Now, it's not able to be proven necessarily. That's just a theory. There's a lot of other theories that maybe the star they followed was from the Old Testament in the wilderness. The Israelites followed, it said, a pillar of fire by night. Maybe that was the star. Maybe it was God's glory or an angel in the sky that they were following. We don't know exactly, but whatever it was, it stood out to these men enough that they decided that there was something worthy of gathering all these people up and putting this caravan together and traveling east, not knowing how long it's going to take. This wasn't oh, hey, that's weird. And the connected with that is we would think that they knew something. They had to have known something about Jewish law and history and prophecy and predictions. Most likely from Numbers 24, where Balaam is prophesying about a star that was going to usher in a king. So they put these pieces together, and so they set out because they expected that something was happening and they wanted to be a part of it. They journeyed to try to find out what it is. When you expect God to do something great, you look for it. When you expect God to do something great, you look for it. And that's what God tells us about Christmas. Christmas, the word that we have kind of for the weeks leading up to Christmas is Advent. Have you ever heard that before? This is the Advent season. We have Advent calendars. You know what that word basically means? It means the arrival, or really more likely, preparing for the arrival. You don't prepare for an arrival unless you have an expectation. And if you don't have this kind of an expectation, it kind of makes life a little boring. There's a Peanuts cartoon with Lucy and Linus. You know, Lucy was just kind of the bully and everything like that. And Lucy looks at Linus and says, "Give me a glass of water." You can imagine Lucy doing this, right? And Linus is like, "Well, why? Why should I get you a glass of water?" And so Lucy begins to negotiate in the Lucy fashion, and she says, okay, here's the deal. You give me a glass of water. On your 75th birthday, I will make you a cake. So Linus gets up and goes and gets Lucy a glass of water. And as he's going, he expresses, he says, life is more pleasant when you have something to look forward to. It is. Life is more pleasant when you have something to look forward to. We have something to look forward to, not only right now, but coming in our future, that God has promised us not only life, but eternal life. These wise men traveled from far away. They journeyed, they left probably some of their families behind even to be able to do this. And they followed a star. And it was a miraculous thing. I mean, we don't know exactly what this is or how this star took place, and we don't have any evidence. But here's one thing we do know, is Jerusalem, it says they came from the east, so they could have followed the star because things move from east to west. So you could have followed the star from the east in a natural progression into Jerusalem. But then it says when they left Jerusalem, they went to Bethlehem. So the star would have to go eat, it would have to turn south. Stars don't travel that way. Do you think these guys knew that? Guys that looked at the stars all the time and studied them and made it kind of their occupation to be a scholar of the sky. That star took a southerly direction. There's something miraculous. There's something different. And not only that, then it stopped over the house where Jesus was. They were expecting something, and they saw Jesus. And when our expectations are exceeded, our joy is exuberant. And that's exactly what you saw. It said that they were filled with joy. They were exuberant, over the top. I've heard this. This has never happened to me. I'm still waiting for this to happen to me. I don't know if any of you ever rent vehicles for work or anything like that. But I know some people that have this story, basically, where they rent like one of those Chevy Sparks that are like shoe boxes with wheels. You know what I'm talking about? Those little bitty ones that you can kind of fit in the back of a full-size pickup. You rent that because why? It's cheaper, right? If you don't need anything else, that's what so they would go and they would rent the Chevy Spark, and they would go to the counter to get their vehicle, and they would find this out. They would, oh, you know what? We don't have any Sparks on the lot, so we're going to go ahead and upgrade you to a Mustang. I want that to happen to me. I mean, some other people, that happens, and you're like, oh, no, really, seriously, I'll just ride my bike. No, you'd be like, okay, I'll take it. Give me the keys. The Mustang convertible, it's 30 degrees out, top down, we're going. It's a convertible. It's a Mustang. We are excited about it. When our expectations are exceeded, we're exuberant, and we're telling people about it, we're posting it on Facebook, we're doing all of this stuff. We're filled with joy, just like these guys were filled with joy. Now, they weren't the only ones that had this expectation that was exceeded beyond their imagination with Jesus. If you look in Luke chapter 2, we see a picture of two individuals, after the normal Jesus nativity story that we see about the shepherds and the manger and all of this. It talks about a few days after Jesus was born, his parents take him to the temple to dedicate him. And when they do, they bump into this man named Simeon, who was expecting, he was eagerly awaiting the Messiah, the promised one, the anointed one, Jesus, Emmanuel, God with us. It says he was overjoyed when he saw Jesus because he knew that Jesus was the answer to God's promise. And right behind him followed this widow by the name of Anna, who her husband died shortly after they were married, and she dedicated the rest of her life, decades, to day and night being in the temple, worshiping God, expectantly awaiting the Messiah coming. And when she saw Jesus and she saw what was going on, it says that she talked about the child to everyone that was awaiting expectantly. for God to rescue Jerusalem. Jesus didn't come to meet our expectations. Even the Jewish people, their expectation was that God was going to come, that Messiah was going to come to save them militarily from Roman rule. That God was going to come to save His people, Jewish people. But here it was, wise men from the east that were non-Jews, Gentiles, were some of the first ones to have this eager expectation of this new king. But it wasn't going to be a king like they expected. Because Jesus didn't come to meet our expectations, but to exceed them. So what? Anybody here exchange gifts at Christmas with other people? The rest of you don't want to get your arm up there or what? Anybody excited about the gifts they're going to get at Christmas? I see that hand. Well, here's the thing. If we don't know, giving gifts to one another at Christmas time is a tradition. It's been passed down for a long time. There are different cultures. Some people trace it back to Italy. Some people trace it back to Germany. Some people trace it back to the wise men who brought gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh to the baby Jesus. Christians, a lot of times, we don't have a direct line to know that that's where the tradition comes, but a lot of times that's what we talk about, that's what we look for. And we want to emphasize this idea of, we give gifts to one another because we would give gifts to Jesus to honor Him. But this is the thing I think of, is the joy of getting a gift loses something as you get older, doesn't it usually? When you think of a little child that's just waiting for that Xbox or whatever it is that's high on that list, they maybe were waiting for it for months. That was this big gift, and mom and dad said, well, you're going to have, no, grandma and grandpa really, don't. You're going to have to wait till Christmas, right? It builds up this anticipation, this expectation of this gift, and then you get it, and then you get the camera out, you videotape it, and then you put it on Facebook, and everybody virally passes it with everybody because this kid goes ballistic because they got this gift. You seen it? They're out there. Why don't we have that joy of Jesus? What have we lost in not expecting Him to show up? What have we lost in not anticipating, in bringing our lives around this idea that we need a little Jesus joy at Christmas time? And that comes from understanding and knowing that Jesus does not come to meet our expectations. Because you're going to have expectations at Christmas time that I'm going to guarantee you aren't going to be met. All your family members that come over are not going to get along. Your casserole that you're going to make is going to burn. The gift you wanted to get is not going to be the gift that is going to be under the tree. Or you're not going to get as many gifts. I even know this whole competition thing that's hard is like, well, he got 6 gifts. I only got 4. Just saying. Your expectations may not get met. But the question is, what are you expecting? Are you expecting a gift? Are you expecting a baby? Are you expecting a threat like Herod was expecting? Are you expecting a king like the wise men? Are you expecting the Messiah is going to be born? And we're going to celebrate and remember that not only is Jesus with us, but He's come to change your world, change your life, and change it for the better. Jesus came not to meet your expectations, He came to exceed them. Whatever you think or imagine, God is more. Jesus in your heart and your life is more. We need to spend our Christmas expecting God to show up. And when He does, we need to give Him the gift He desires most of all.
We need to spend our Christmas expecting that God will show up, and when He does, we need to give Him the gift that He desires most. What is that gift? Because God did show up. Jesus was born. We have clear evidence in history and archaeology and all this. Jesus, the Son of God, did come, and He did do the miracles. He did die on the cross. He did rise again. We know that. We believe that because evidence all points to it. Jesus did come. He will come, and He will come again. Somebody should amen that. And if He is, what are we expecting? What are you expecting? I don't think He has any expectations on us, but I know that I would want to bring Him a gift to worship Him like the wise men did. But there's only one gift I can look at that I think He desires. There's only one gift, and it's not something that's going to come out of my pocketbook. It's not going to come out of my schedule. It's not going to come from Best Buy or Amazon. There's only one gift that I believe God desires. Jeremiah 29:13 says, "You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart." The only gift Jesus wants this Christmas is you. Not a part of you. Not Sunday morning for an hour you. He wants all your heart. Your heart on Monday, your heart on Tuesday, your heart on any day ending in the letter Y. That's all of them, by the way. God wants you because He loves you. And He wants to bless us. And He wants to give us an exceeding joy. And that is what Christmas is all about. That is the good news, the Christmas news. That we have a hope and an expectation that God does show up in our lives, and He wants to meet us there so that we can worship Him. So what are you expecting this Christmas? Expect Jesus and bring to Him the only gift that He desires. Father, I thank You that we can worship You, we can love You, and we can know You. We can know that the truth is that You came, not to meet our expectations, but to exceed them. As I just feel Your Spirit in this room right now, Father God, because I know that You want to be here with us. You didn't just come to be with us 2,000 years ago as a baby in a feed trough, but You came to be with us today, here. I believe Your Spirit may be working in the lives of many of us, just